Hello and welcome to Stardust Anlian, the flag of which is up here. Um, the date on the Anlian calendar is 3/1/4/4/24, um, 4/2, and that means the day on the Gregorian calendar is Tuesday, June 25th, 2024. And today I would like to talk about the different Anlai languages. Anlia has a couple of different languages, and they don't really belong. They don't really all belong to Anlia. Some of them belong to different sects of Angiki, which is people who live on Anguli or Anguli, who live on the land and um, work towards Anlian principles or certain Anlian diatopias that are based in certain countries, so they'll be heavily influenced by the nation where they come from. Um, but first we have the Anlian languages that were in the development of the standard language online. So first there was first there was an Anlai Forage. Actually, no. First there was Angali. Now Angali is the language of the aliens who were communicating with me about how to design Anlia back when I was 15 or 16, going on 17. Um, and they were in Angali kind of sounded like this. There was Anga, which means the flying saucer itself. Um, there were some other words. Um, there was can, there was can, which means love. I think it just represents a heart. You put your tongue into this shape, and then you put your tongue into this shape, and and then and then the first language that I developed was Anlai. Anlai. So the one of the central things about Angali is that Angali has a concatenated structure. So it uses a noun for the subject, which is then attached to a verb as one word, and then the object is next word. So some other words in Angali are lang for human and lang ro for dog, or they would actually pronounce grang and ro and or lang ro because they have no standard set of sounds. Um, so then I said I was going to do this earlier, but Anlai added words like Anglia for Anlia and O for equals, and um, that was about it. So it was like, and you have, I and U, so E and O for I and U, so E, Ka, Anla, means I love Anlian. So or it'd be Econ Anlian. Because of the prices and falling pitch. So then in five-ish, which was the next stage of Anlai, I added words that represented the individual parts of Anlian. So there was Mav, which represents the PIM, the individual unit of housing and infrastructure when they come together. And Wang also represents an individual, represents the lowest unit of social structure. So if you go to after school, that after school is a Wang. And then you have, let's see, what else was there? There was Oino, which is the Stardust printer itself in its final form. I knew that those things had reached their final form because I was no longer working on them. So Oino is the Stardust printer, which produces the food. And I established that the number system was not only four based, where it goes from le to lele, but it was also the top digit or the first digit went up to 5, and it was always a 2, and the real base was 2. So if you like, first digit is always 3, 4, or 5. Next digit is 2 or 4 of the last digit, and all the following digits are 4 of the digit after them. And then in 6-ish, I added a useful thing. I changed the pronunciation of Anlai. First by just changing it so that wo, which is equals or is differentiated from o, not by its length, but by the individual syllables. So koko is equals, and o is length. O is you. So and then I also added koko for I also used koko for the number denomination. So, for example, lo koko is 12, lo ko is 6, and lo ha is 24, representing powers of 2. So ko is 1 power of 2, koko is 2 powers of 2, and ha is 3 powers of 2. I also introduced the ta verbs, as well as the basic crimes. Ta based on the crime of violence or a hit. Ta. The ta verbs are tilk, to have, tango, to be able to mentally, plang, to be able to physically, and plach, to want. So an example of, I remember I didn't do 5-ish as an example. An example of 5-ish would be would be be ikoko ge la or ikoko ge wig. So this is ikoko ge wig, meaning I am in a group. Example of six-ish on the same, and this would be ituch loud wig, because now they're articles. So loud is an article for a, koko is now an article for the. Also introduced g as of, but g also takes place of the article of the word that is after the of. So you say ikoko gle lag whale the ta. I am in a hitting group. I'm in Fight Club basically. Um, so then there's the. I'm now at seven-ish. Seven-ish introduced other things other than g, like the, and thu, which makes anything a verb. So le will specify. So putting le before something will specify it's an adjective, or that you're meaning something metaphorically as an adjective instead of saying that it's of and then using that as a noun. So, and also in six-ish and seven-ish, you have the introduction of Olan Liatlaks, where the sentence is preceded by a statement of an actor and a statement of good or bad. So basically, wahak, alright, let's get an example. So at this point, everything was fully within the consonant and vowel space. So it was so it sounded exactly like this. It was wahak, hauk, geweld angai. So that means I broke the car, or maybe I scratched the car. And then you say hakpa ohil weld angai thu, which means I painted the car red, or specifically, or ohil hakpa. I don't know what I said before, but it's supposed to be hakpa ohil weld angai thu. So it means hakpa means good deed, implying of me because I'm the one speaking. Weld angai means car, specifically like the pin of the land, Weld angai, and then le specifies that you're talking about an adjective, and thu is a word that can mean plus or can mean red, and by using the adjective marker le, we're saying it means red. So I painted the car red. I made, ohilch means made, so it's hachpa ohilch weld angai lithu. And then, and that's where the main series has ended for now. But then we have this series of other languages that I use. So here's a language that I use called Anguli. Anguli is basically just English with any amount of Anlai words, usually to to conceal risque things. So you could say like, I'm in a whale. I'm in a house whale. I'm in a say I'm in a house whale market, meaning I'm in a penal sect or actually that's also weird. That's also a neologism. So I would say I'm in a house whale market, meaning I'm in a place where it is okay to curse. How whale mark so you could say how means sin, so how whale meaning a social group of sins, so where it's okay to sin, and the way that you sin is by mak meaning talk and meaning back. Then you have Morosco. Morosco is supposed to be sort of more. It's supposed to be like a more. Or it's supposed to be a way that Anlian diatopia interfaces with AAVE, but it doesn't have much to do with AAVE when you think about it because it uses th for the instead of d. So it more has to do with it's more just like a more Anlai version of Anguli. Which uses English grammar to speak Anguli, to speak Anlai, and one of its major pluses, one of its major achievements is that it uses the word u, where Anlai would use plus or use for plus, because it doesn't want for plus to be confused with for the, which comes from English. So it says u. It's like the turned into a thu, which is common in Anlai, and then the u turned into, and the thu turned into a u, because thu would have been a bird marker. So you've got so to speak Morosco, you end up talking like this. You end up saying, Sahakwil Koko Fa. Sahakwil Koko Fa, which means the penal sect is good. Or you could say, Ikoko Gu Thub Hakwil Mak Thu Coco Thu sorry, never mind, I did it wrong. E Coco Gu the Halk Whale Mak the Halk Whale Ta, from the penal sect for hitting and cursing. So you could say that. And then there's and then there's other languages like that, which show kind of a different. There's one that's a combination of Anlai and Spanish, where the Morosco is basically just replaced by the L from a more Latin variety of speech, and there's a couple other things like the word hilch or tilch, because hilch means thing. It turns into kosa, but the rest of the word is still online. So it's like tilch is tosa, meaning like um, meaning tilk is tosa, which means have, and you've also got glech becomes glesa, which means in, and that's about it for the, and ech becomes esa, which means out, or esa, which means out. The kind of shifts to an usually, unless it's contrasted with a similar word, where the with an or unless it's contrasted with a similar word with an instead of a similar word with an there's also the plural ulg, turns into ulk. So it becomes pretty simple. It's like y poco confortable ou le lankir le lankir engal, which means I'm comfortable with the cats of the house. Y poco confortable ou le lankir le engal. So that's sort of that. Before I came up with that, I came up with a variety which combines Anlai with Hebrew. I was working with some Hebrew and Yiddish. I thought that maybe the people of this is not so much for a way to Anlia, but it's more like like people are using Anlian redemption methods to get to Jewish biblical laws, and they will tend to use I didn't get far enough to know what the Jewish biblical laws were in Hebrew, so it doesn't actually so I actually don't know that part, but I know that they would use ha for the, because ha is a scale marker like koko, which means the, but ha is a greater one, and ha is also the word for the in Hebrew. So you could say okoko ha el geolam, or ha'el ha'olam. You are the God of the world. So you can basically just use Hebrew words for important Hebrew stuff, like el and olam. Okoko ha'el ha'olam. But then you have the I think that's what I usually use when I'm demonstrating Yidmak Anlai, which is what this is called. There's a Japanese one, but I don't know nearly enough Japanese to make that work. There's another one called Michelean. Michelean is the language of a cult that meets at the pavilion at the top of Mount Mitchell, and they live in a society that uses they live in a society that uses uses architecture designed to fit the laws of Anlian without actually using the technology of Anlian. Like they might have so in Anlian, in order to have sex, you have to go to a penal sec for sex, and then you have to go, and then if you leave, and then the way to stop consent into it is you leave the penal sec. So in the Michelean society, family homes have 2 bedrooms which are connected by a central sex room, and no one and people tend to sleep in their separate bedrooms but have sex in the sex room. But that is kind of the penal sex. But Michelean does something weird, which I think is noteworthy. It uses mostly Anlai, but it uses the English, or rather, I guess Latin originally, way of denoting. Well, not Latin, but it's kind of it uses the S pluralization. The English and Spanish use. Latin, I remember, used something else. So it's kind of, I don't know where that came from personally, but the S. So instead of saying Hal Golangolol, which means happy holidays, you would say Hal Golanos. So the old becomes us. So we have Hal Golangolos, but then the Gl kind of the Angl kind of contracts and becomes Olanos, becomes so Hal Golanos. We also get words from Michelean such as only Atlachs, as opposed to Olan Atlachs. You could say only Atlachs. That's a Michelean word. But of course, in Anlai, it would be Ol Anli Atlachov. So I think that's going to be it. I remember that makes it 30 minutes, so it's time 30 now. So I'm gonna go to bed. See you in the future, Dan.